I actually think that right now is just a great time to be alive.
It
because
is.
we are really, really about to see how much power the black people have and how much power our dollar has. It's happening. I know you had to notice it. It's almost like everywhere you turn, everything is being revamped to be more culturally inclusive. Everything is being like rebooted to be more culturally inclusive, and it's not like everyone's just throwing white people out.
Right.
It's just making everything we put our eyes on represent how America is truly looks.
Truly looks, yeah.
Because we were fed a lie.
The Media Bee is an online radio host, an entertainment blogger, and an actress. I met her a few years ago and we were doing interviews for a Peoti Visions release. She really has a wide breadth of knowledge and an impressive range of information. It makes her questions much more in depth than usual. I was interested to hear her perspective on black issues, as usually she's relegated to talking about entertainment. I know she has a unique position being a woman of color trying to navigate through the modern landscape of entertainment. So I was excited to sit down and pick her brain about things.
Voodoo Man series. We're here with Angela, aka the Media Bee. She is a radio personality, a host, an actress. She's done 2 plays. She's like, I'm not an actress. She's an actress. She's very talented. She's multi-talented, and we're here to talk to her. See what she thinks about some stuff.
Okay.
In your experience, have you had any experiences being a woman of color in entertainment that made you feel disenfranchised or bothered
From
you
another woman?
at all? Period.
As a woman, there is like a double standard where if I was a guy in my business and you're networking and you're talking and you're getting interviews, it would be nothing. But now it's always like you always got to second guess like what's going on. Is this is an interview, right? That's it. Like nothing else.
Right.
So women always have to be like very self-aware, where men don't have to, of all of their conversations and interactions. Is exhausting sometimes.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. Although, sometimes as a dude, I was telling you, like, trying to get interviews, some of the girls are like, oh, well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, men can experience it too.
Right.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel dangerous or like a setup. I just feel like, they think
No,
I'm trying to set them up. I'm like, I'm chilling.
Well, women need that third antenna that men generally don't need. Like, you're totally genuine, you know, in what you're trying to do, but women always have to like second guess themselves. It's weird. There's no way to even explain it.
I think that's a good explanation, like that third. I mean, I always kind of try to compare when I'm like hearing women's issues. I try to compare it to being a black man in a white America. Because like a lot of times
women are a minority.
Women are a minority, and there is a male privilege that I'm trying to become more aware about. Like, I'm trying to educate myself and make sure that I am on the right side of things. Because and I think that's kind of what, as black people, we always say to white people, like, you don't see this, like, you don't see.
Yeah.
I also think that it's more difficult. Like, I think sexism is more complicated than racism, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But it's just so ingrained in almost human nature. Like, there's so many aspects of being a man
on both sides.
Yeah, on both sides.
Not just men too. There's things that are ingrained in women that we don't even know about. Like, we'll sit and we'll complain that this man or male in the industry is climbing up higher or further and making more money, but at the same time we may have not even asked for the money, asked for the raise, or even put ourselves out there because we don't feel like that's our space, that's not something we can do.
Right.
I heard something like what men generally get, offers, and when someone gets hired, everyone gets an offer, but men negotiate that. Women kind of just like, oh, that's what you're paying me,
right?
And they keep it moving. Exactly. So on both sides, like, women have a lot of stuff ingrained in us too. That
well, that's what I'm saying. That's why sexism is complicated, because I mean, there's so much that's almost, from thousands of years of just hunter gatherers. It always comes back to that, like like that that kind of, and the protective nature or the predatory nature of guys comes from a different place. So it's difficult to unravel. Before we go all the way back there, let's talk about, because I kind of skipped. Let's talk about what it is exactly you do. Like, I met you. You were doing your radio show. Peoti Visions came up there. One of our favorite interviews of all time. What made you want to do, like, get into,
radio?
Radio,
that
blogging, all that.
By accident. The whole radio thing happened by accident. I had my blog, themediabee.com, for a while. And a close friend of mine, Monica Yvette Money, from Philly, she was starting up her own radio company.
Okay.
And she knew I had my little blog site. So she's like, why don't you do a little snippet, a celebrity tea thing, nothing longer than a minute, and we'll just play it during the course of the day. I'm like, cake, I could do that.
Right.
And then people just love that so much. She was like, you should just have your own 4-hour show. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, so it's a big
jump.
Big jump right there.
Exactly. So I was doing that 4 hours of, my music and celebrity tea, which is great and all, but it's kind of like one-sided, one-track minded. So about a year or so ago, maybe even longer, I started kind of branching out from the celebrity talk, the celebrity, trash talk. Started reaching out to people in the community, whoever was opening up any businesses, and writers, directors, local plays, artists, musically. I was just reaching out to them and offering them, like the full interview or exposure for your business. And once I started doing that and the community and seeing the responses for that, I was like, this is it. Like, I still love my celebrity garbage, but
still need a little bit of that.
Exactly. Right. But doing that is what I really like. So I really
nice. So what even made you start the blog? Like, how did that even come about?
Honestly, because I was the person to ask if you wanted to know anything that was going on in entertainment. Like, did you hear that? Like, I don't know. I always used to say that I know everything or a little bit about everything, even the things I don't know about. Right. So I was just that person. And a friend of mine was like, you know what, you should just blog this. Try to get to it first and blog it. Nice. And so it just kind of became like a creative outlet for me.
That became your thing.
Yeah. You brought up like our first interview. That was so funny. I remember when I interviewed you like 2-3 years ago? Yeah. And I remember walking out and I was like, I think I found my brothers.
Right. Yeah, she's like, I love you guys. You guys are so much fun. We was in there geeking out. She's like, you guys know about that? Like, y'all know about that? That was a fun interview.
That was a fun interview.
We was driving up there. It was like, yo, this place far.
It was in King of Prussia.
It was in King of Prussia.
Yeah.
That was crazy. It was like, it's funny. Dudes are so funny because it's like, man, you got me over there. You came to the door. Everybody, they was like, all right, we'll go do this interview.
Y'all done drove all that way. I don't think y'all had air conditioning.
No. Windows down. Sorry, I got the new whip, Ryan. I got the new whip. It's keyless, bro.
No, it was cool. It was good. It was refreshing. I love interviews like that when it's changing. I do like it. You see it in our artists. Like, black people geek out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, geek out. Geeks, like, exactly. Like, it is changing and it's becoming okay. You know who I wish was around when I was growing up?
Who's that?
I was like super. First of all, I was like super like emo and dramatic, whatever. But I really wish like XXX Tentacion was around when I was growing up. Right. If he was out when I was growing up, I wouldn't have felt so weird. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? Right. So that's the goodness in all this new school, like trippy stuff that a lot of people are complaining about. But
I don't know how you could complain about him though, because his stuff was live.
I know, but like, the Littles and all of them and stuff, like, people have to realize that they are, aside for all the drug promotion, they are reaching out to somebody. My family thought I was insane. Yeah. Yeah, listening just because I listened to rock music. But if these kids were out when I was growing up, I wouldn't have felt like alone. The world would have felt a lot closer. Right. Especially growing up in Camden.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, I've always been eclectic. They said because I listen to everything. I listen to
everything.
I mean, I was listening to rock music. I'll go to rock shows. But I think there was a lot of people doing that, which is why you have like this whole black geek movement, this black nerd movement. Like,
yeah, and then because my mom was older, like when everybody was, bumping the rap music, old school rap. Like I was listening to like Madonna, George Michael, all that stuff.
George Michael's so lit though.
Exactly.
What?
So I don't think I got into rap until like my junior year in high school. Swear to God, because the whole grunge movement had stole me first.
Right.
So
grunge
there's no going back once you fall in love with that.
The thing, I'm contrarian. I realize this. Like when I was at I guess I was at Voorhees Middle, and it was a good mix. So I was listening to I listened to some hip hop. I listened to some pop music. I always like weird stuff. When I got to high school, my first year I went to Bishop Eustace, which was a Catholic school, right? All white. I started listening to hardcore rap. Like I did not want no part. I was like, everything's black. I want all black music. I want the hardest rap out.
Yeah.
And now I go to Winslow, right? So this is all black. So now I start listening to rock. Now I'm all into Radiohead, Coldplay. I was like, I'm done with rap.
You just had to rebel from your surroundings.
Right, like I've always been I was like that.
I'm glad I experienced what I experienced, because my son listens to like deathcore.
Oh shoot.
All that stuff. But because I was the oddball, even though I can't, like, I'm not listening to that.
Right.
I never made him feel like he. Yeah. I can't do it. That's me to take him to a concert. Sorry, baby.
You gotta go.
I can't do it. But because of what I went through, I was just like.
Right, you gotta see it.
Because I knew that if I shunned it and talked shit, it would only push him into it.
Yeah, he's gonna start a band. He's gonna start doing it. That's how that works. You don't like it? Watch this.
Exactly. But
that's good though.
Yeah, I love it. I don't regret.
Be inclusive. I do think that our community is becoming more inclusive.
They have there's Afropunk now.
Yeah, Afropunk's lit.
Yeah.
I'm coming to Afropunk though. Y'all hear it here first. I'm gonna put this up. I'm coming there. Voodoo Man's coming in. It's the perfect place for the Voodoo Man project. Yeah. Like it's gonna be so lit. I can't wait to go. What do you think about the state of, I guess, black music? I mean, I count rap as black music, even though now it's like it's shifting and it's shifting.
Becoming everybody's.
Right.
Which is cool. Mm-hmm. But I know a lot of people still feel very protective of that too. You have artists like Azalea Banks who
she crazy though.
Yeah.
I'm on camera, but
yeah, but you artists we make the music to put it out there for everybody to enjoy. And everyone's going to be inspired by someone else and have maybe elements or sounds of someone else's music in their whole vibe. There's a thin line of being protective of it and just being plain stingy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, the thing I have, because part of the reason I'm doing this whole series is because I think that we need to be aware as black people and creators of, what's the word? Purveyors of cool. We kind of create the cool of America, like throughout history. I think we have to be aware that most of the stuff we create, we don't own. Yeah. And that is a problem. Like we keep coming up with new stuff and new swag and new dances, but we don't profit from it properly. We're starting to profit.
I was about to say we're
starting to, but historically we haven't. No. And there's still more people that benefit from the success of black culture than black people. Right. Yeah. There's more people, and that to me is the biggest issue. Because I mean, you look at the history. You look at jazz, you look at rock and roll, blues. You look at even like what's happening with hip hop, pop music, R&B music. I mean, who's the biggest R&B artist in the world? Is it Justin Timberlake? Is that what where we're at right now? I would hope not. Not that his music is bad, but you have to. I mean, he does it well, but I mean, we're talking about a lane that was pioneered by Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, Donny Hathaway. There's so many legends that came up in R&B, and
the Justin Timberlakes are great. Mm-hmm. They're great, but if you're going to sit there and play Justin Timberlake, then you need to play who also inspired him.
When I was a kid, right, and I can't remember which artist it was, but there was a white artist on a black station, and my dad was mad about it. And I was like, I mean, what do you mean the song's hot? Like, if it's hot, it should be on radio. Yeah. He was like, it's true if it was fair. He's like, they'll play this song on every station, but they won't play a black artist song on the pop station. Exactly, and that's been the way it's been for a long time, and I think that's part of the problem. So if we owned our culture and we were the only ones benefiting from it, like we'd be like, imagine if we owned jazz. Like if we had owned jazz, there would be so mmany more millionaires.
But that's never going to happen because art is kind of like water. Mm-hmm. You know, it's going to flow through everybody's hands. Everybody gets...
That's a really good example because whoever owns water, rich is crap, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of belongs to everyone and to no one at the same time. Well, so I understand, like, putting, obviously, you know, get your money, get your royalty. But as far as, I think culture is something that you can't... You
can't stop people from being inspired by your culture. But you can profit from it. Like, I think, and that's why I like what you just said with the water example. Yeah. You got to let the water flow, but by letting it flow, they should pay you. Like, that's how water companies make their money.
Absolutely.
So, like, if it's coming from you, like, if we're creating this culture, you can borrow it, but you gotta pay us a little bit.
Or, a perfect example, or just put it out there who you got it from.
Right.
Like, do you remember when Miley Cyrus had that whole album produced by, like, Mike
Will, yeah.
And then she jumped back
to
with
country.
The next...
Right.
Yeah. Fine.
Right.
Like, you could borrow it and play with it, you know, black culture, or... Because that's what it is. Artists pretend. But at the same time, everyone needs to give everyone the same spotlight.
Right.
You know, don't shun... I don't know. Maybe a black artist wants to dabble in rock.
Black
people will kind of... I think black people might be more receptive to maybe like a Miley hip-hop song if she's like featured on it. But if a black person tried out rock, we'll be like, what is this?
Lenny Kravitz.
Yeah, exactly.
He sells out arenas, but there ain't too many black people there. But I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. Yeah. Like we started that music, but we move on from it. Like once it becomes...
And we abandon it.
Yeah, we abandon it. That's what I'm saying. Like if you go to there's still jazz artists, but if you go to a jazz show,
there's no black people.
There's no black people. It's like the entire audience is white. And that's not how it started. Like kids don't think of jazz as being black music. And this is more what I'm talking about. Like they just don't connect the two. They don't know the history of it. And I'm seeing that like in real time happen to hip hop. Like I'm watching it happen. Like it's like, you know, like the all white beef, right? You got G-Eazy is popping. And people say Eminem's the greatest rapper ever. Like that's a legitimate argument. You got MGK. I mean, I love what Mac Miller did. I mean, he was, you know, R.I.P. Mac Miller. Like his music was great. But you have all these people that are a part of the culture that are selling to an entirely different audience. Now, even Kanye West and Jay-Z, when they do their arena tours, most of their audience is not black people. It's mostly white. Like, it's the number one export of America is hip-hop music. It's crazy. Like, worldwide, everyone does it. You got Japanese trap artists out there. Wow. At what point, you know, like, at what point are we going to leave from this?
There's Harajuku trap?
Yo, it'd be hot. I don't know what they're saying, but it'd be crazy.
Check it out.
Like, it's a worldwide music.
Yeah. Maybe we need to love our culture as much as other people do.
Right. Well, again, like, for example, Jay-Z's a perfect example. Jay-Z, he owns his stuff. So when everyone else loves it, he profits from it. It goes to his it allows him to do different things in different business ventures. The problem I've had historically is Marvin Gaye died broke. Yeah. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, you know, you got all these artists that pioneered sounds that were legends that didn't own their stuff. Didn't own their stuff.
Because they were uneducated in the business.
Right. Well, they weren't
taken advantage of.
They weren't allowed. Well, a lot of them weren't even allowed to do it. Like, they kept artists. They acted like they couldn't do it. I mean, and this is something that Dame Dash was saying with, you know, like, he's like, how can they tell us what to sell to our own people? Like, the gatekeep. Yeah. Like, the internet really helped get rid of, like, or not all of them, but there's, like, less gatekeepers now than there have been because, I mean, you can go direct to consumer, which allows more artists to
express
to
themselves,
express themselves
yeah.
and reach their fan base without having to worry about payola, having to worry about radio station not playing, like, not, or advertisers being upset, like, so you can actually go direct to consumer and have a sustainable career. But that's new. I mean, throughout history, and I mean that goes back to what I think J. Cole talks about it a lot, like all these young guys, like the state. That's what I was saying, like the state of rap. Like, I mean, I like it. I mean, it's fun. I enjoy everybody having fun because hip hop has always had fun tracks.
I think the state of rap right now is, I mean, it's interesting and it's exciting too. And I think a lot of old hip hop heads, to them it might seem scary, like their rap is losing itself.
Right.
But what they need to understand, it's not really losing itself. It's just evolving.
Right. I say the same thing.
Yeah,
these
just
kids will be all
evolving.
right. Like they'll be like. It's taking a different turn than what most people like. It's always done that.
Yeah.
Like, people, stop being old. Like stop being old. Like cut it out. Let the kids have. Let them have some fun.
Exactly.
Let them make what they feel like. If you listen to it, it'll move you. Like I get what they're doing, but my issue with the state of music right now is, I think, like, with everything that's going on in the world, like, this is one of the most turbulent times in history, and music and art should reflect that. Like, we're supposed to be...
So your thing is that the music isn't...
It's not reflecting...
Right. Music used to be a lot more conscious.
Right.
But I think music right now is kind of just becoming...
It's more
solely an
profit.
escape.
Yeah, well, it's escape-driven and profit-driven, and it's not dealing with...
But we're also dealing with a whole different mindset of, like, celebrity.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about, rap isn't conscious, but you're also talking about... You got to remember that interview that Lil Wayne had when she asked him about the Black Lives Matter movement, and he said, "What does that got to do with me?"
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So you can't expect rappers that walk around with that mentality to do anything of everyone else who's sitting here living it. I mean, we just had to try our might to turn Kanye back.
I know. Well, this is what I'm saying. I mean, you get so far removed that you forget, I guess, where you came from. And I mean, the other thing is, I always said, like, with black athletes, I mean, now we're like with LeBron, we're starting to see it, and Colin Kaepernick, obviously, we're starting to see a shift, and they're making that adjustment that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But black athletes for a long time, when they started getting endorsement deals, like when Jordan got the Nike deal, and that made a lot of them be quiet and accept certain...
Yes, because we never seen that money before.
Right, they never saw that money. It was so much money at risk. There was so much, their families were making changes forever. Like, it's that kind of money. So they didn't want to risk that and say something to upset people. And I think that's what's happening with artists. They're so profit-driven that they're afraid to upset any of their base.
Yeah, and then also there's people keeping them high, too.
Right. Well, that's
so
what
that
I'm
they're
saying.
not caring about what's
the
going on.
The gatekeepers there's a certain trend. Like, if you turn on the radio, you're not going to hear too much J. Cole. You're not going to hear too much Kendrick, really. I mean, they're not really... I mean... You hear some Kendrick now.
You hear them, and they'll let them...
Right.
Be the darlings of conscious rap.
Right, but there's so much music.
Exactly.
There's so much music that doesn't get played. You got so many artists that, talk about different things, and you'll hear, like, so much... I don't want to say garbage, but it's just like fun music. I call it fun music.
Yeah, a lot of it's party music.
Right.
But you have to. It can't always just be about that.
Right.
It can't always be about that. You're right. It does need to reflect, what we're going through. There's not much conscious music out there. Yeah, I would say like just Kendrick and J. Cole. I mean, there are the ones that they
that's the ones that are super popular.
Yeah, a seat at the table.
Super popular that that win awards and get the. But there's so many more artists. Yeah. And, I mean, again, I was saying, I think the idea of stardom is going to change, too, because with streaming, I don't think we're going to see global superstars like that. I think it's going to be more niche. But that's just my opinion.
I mean, because artists aren't even making whole albums anymore.
Right. It's more about them cultivating their own fan base. And, like, it's like Netflix, right? Like, your Netflix subscription, like, what you watch is probably way different than mine or whoever's next door. We all have our own bubbles, and that's how streaming works. Yeah. So like somebody's Spotify playlist is not going to be the same as mine.
So everybody's making money.
Right. Everybody's reaching. Right. There's not going to be any more like 1% superstars. Like we're not going to see that. Like MTV is not going to be the basis for stardom. It's more about
you know what's changing that too Because they used to be way less accessible. With social media, we feel like we know everybody.
Right.
These people are recording every single minute of their lives. So when we walk past them on the street, it's like, hey, girl.
Right. You feel like you know them.
You feel like you know them. So that's a good and bad thing.
I think it's a really good thing for artists, actually. I mean, I think, like, you're not gonna have as many people that reach like 300 million followers.
Yeah.
But you don't need that to sustain a good career.
Following.
Yeah. I mean, if you have 1 million people that buy your album, like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So like, even if you get 500,000 people, like, you're still, and you can tour different countries, you're doing well. Yeah. So I mean, it's just the idea of success is changing and evolving, and the idea of stardom is shifted, like you said, like, everything's like on IG. I mean, like,
Will Smith said it. Like, that's why he came on Instagram. He said back in his day, growing up, he was told, be not so accessible.
Right.
So be mysterious so that when you do have a project, everybody's just hungry to see you and what are you doing? And then he realized that ain't where it is anymore.
You know what made me realize that? Kevin Hart. Because, like, I was watching him put something out every week. It seemed like he had something else. Like, he's on TV. He had a movie come out. He had another movie. He had a special. He's on comedy. He
didn't sleep for a good.
And he's still doing it. Him and The Rock, they both killing it. And I was thinking, he's gonna oversaturate himself. But
you would think
it doesn't work that way.
You know why? Because you mix you put your projects out. You promote your projects, but you also have to promote yourself.
Right.
So you're mixing up your projects, your movies, your shows, your concerts with snippets of your real life.
Right.
So people not only are going to go see your movie because of a cool trailer, but they just sat down and had dinner with you and your family last night. So to them, they're now supporting their friend.
They're right. And that's what I'm saying. It's completely
different.
different.
There's no such thing as oversaturation.
No such thing.
If there was, Cardi B wouldn't even be famous.
Another one. Like, there's another great example of just, like, constantly putting out different snippets, her and her.
And then people talk trash, but then you see people taking the mold. You gotta understand, like, Beyonce didn't even let herself be accessible like that on social media until recently, and even then, it's still very
different because she doesn't need that as much.
She doesn't need it at all.
I was like the MTV generation, I think the cutoff is like 2013. If you were popping by 2013, then you're good. Yeah, you're good. You don't need it because you already got your.
But if you're
coming up from that, then you gotta be kind of hustling.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, even like, Drake doesn't have to do it. Like, Kendrick, for example, I mean, he came out, but he doesn't do a lot of social media. But he was, like, one of the last people to start popping at that time.
Yeah, no. Even the most closed-off celebrities are now getting the hang of the game. Right. Like, Beyonce's is very, very controlled, but people still love it. Right. Because we're still getting, like, little flashes of her real life. Right. So you're not oversaturating yourself. Yeah,
it's pretty crazy how all that evolved, and it's still evolving. We're still trying to figure it out. I just hope that I hope that the young artists understand that they gotta control their finances. They gotta control their culture. They have to watch their culture because, like,
it does, but it's going to take some people to lead the way. You know what I would like to see lead the way? A Chris Brown, because he's, like, at that perfect age, because he's been around for a long time. He's been in the business. Right. Yeah, he had ups and downs. Been in the business a long time. Like, he's almost 30, but he's still young enough that everyone will look up to him, respect him, hear what he has to say. You need people, I think, in that age range to. I think
Drake does a good job in terms of business, in terms of how to run your own company. See, you don't even think about that.
Yeah,
because he started that OVO Records while he was still signed, and he wasn't even. But it doesn't.
No, that's great. But, like what you were saying, what are you doing?
Oh, he's not gonna say anything.
Teach
he's not gonna say
everybody
anything.
Else.
Yeah, he's not gonna say anything to teach anybody because he doesn't want to mess up.
Yeah.
His corporate deals, like, he's getting.
You got to do
he's
something.
Getting that Nike bag. Although Nike stepped up, that was crazy.
And maybe that's going to change. Maybe we'll get a post from some other respected celebrity or star about what's going on in the world. But you're right. Not many people want to mess up the bag.
They don't want.
And Drake would actually be the perfect person because he's not even an American citizen.
Yeah, but his fans are.
Exactly.
His fans
so
are.
Him putting out his thoughts of the state of the world today, and
it's better. It's safer for him.
Safer for him.
I mean, you know.
But then it's also scary because we could be like, yeah, you can't come here no more.
Right. That's what he's worried about. So let's get into who you are. Like, so where are you from? What's your heritage? Where are you from?
Okay. Well, I'm born and raised in Camden. Mm-hmm. I lived in Lawnside for about 6 years, 7 years.
I didn't know he was from Camden. My whole my family from Camden. Like my pop, he be rapping crazy Camden all day.
Graduated from Wilson.
Oh, so did my dad.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
He gonna be ant when you see this.
Yeah, graduated from Wilson. My heritage, Black, Native American, European, Sweden, that I know of.
Right. Yeah. It's funny that, have you done the ancestry test?
No.
Yeah, or do you want to?
Yeah, it would be cool. Yeah, it would be cool to see what surprises.
I did it. And it wasn't really surprising. Mostly Black, mostly West African. And I think it's exactly what I expected. It was very generic. I think
nothing. Wait, what test did you do?
I just did the ancestry one. Now they do have another one that's supposed to help, more specifically for African Americans.
I'll tell you what tribe. you're from.
What tribe you're with. But I also just went to the African American Museum, and it just makes you think about, I'm in America, but am I American? I always have that question. Am I really, because when they wrote the Constitution, they wrote the Declaration of Independence, they weren't counting me as a citizen. That wasn't really for me. And if I wanted to go, because I've had posts and somebody was like, why don't you just go back where you came from? I'm like, I don't even know where that is, bro.
African Americans have a deep loss of self. It takes, I think the problem is why you might see many of us finding who we are a little later on in life. Obviously we eventually do,
right.
And many of us are successful is because we don't have that identity of self. And if you come from a broken home, it's even worse.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a lot of people in our community. I also think that that's part of the reason that we create so much culture, and part of the reason we don't understand it.
Because we're trying to express
something
that we can't even,
right.
If you come from a broken home, it's going to take you even longer to figure out what you were meant to do in this life.
One of the things is the education system harms us. Because it starts off by telling us we were slaves. So initially, you don't even want to really research into who you were. Yeah. Because you're like, well, what am I going to find out?
We were just talking about that. And then by the time you realize that we just didn't land on this earth as slaves, we're already in college, and it's already been conditioned to us that we're less than.
That's part of the conditioning that happens. It's partially media, but it's also, they when they teach you your history, if I'm a slave, why am I going to look back? This is the best we ever had. You go from slavery to the civil rights movement, which is not that long ago. I never thought
of it like that. Yeah. Because the way they're serving it to us is you're living in the best time to live for your people. And that's not really the truth. People think the civil rights movement was so long ago. I just put this post up. They're like, your ancestors. Lived through it. It's like, what you talking about, my grandma? It was weird because when I seen that post, when he was like my grandmother, I was like, you mean my mom? My mom is actually 76? No, 76, 77. So, my mom is crazy. My mom remembers the water fountains and if she can remember that, she remembers all of that.
Being from Camden, my dad was one of the first kids to integrate a school in Camden.
Yeah.
So, his views on stuff is coming from that's one generation removed. That's not ancestors.
That's like my mother. That's
my dad.
I didn't even. I was happy when Obama became president, but I wasn't really emotional about it until I called my mom. I was like, Mom, did you ever think that you'll see the day? And so seriously. She was like, nope,
Right.
never. And that's when like
it
hit me.
Right. I mean, it really is crazy.
Yeah.
Because I mean, until that time, we still weren't citizens, really official citizens, like all the way citizens of the country that we had been living in since before it was America, because it brought us here.
Did you see the movie Loving?
Loving? I haven't seen it.
It's about the first interracial couple.
I
It's
heard
a black
about that,
woman,
yeah.
and a white guy who basically fought the justice system so that they could be married. You're watching that movie and you're like, wow, this was the 50s.
Right.
Like it's
not that long ago.
Not that long
it's
ago.
really not that
Their
long ago.
Their kids are like alive.
Yeah. I mean, it's really not that long ago, and like the history is, and then everyone's like, you know, people always act like we should just move on. I'm like, how like who else do you say that to? What other group of people?
It's almost like how people are expected to move on without like closure or an apology, or
it's not even like that because it's still happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're asking me to move on from something that's still actively happening. Like, you're still actively oppressing us, like, in multiple ways. Like, there's multiple facets of oppression that are still currently ongoing, and you want me to not pay attention to, and like, you know, a lot of people try to compare the Holocaust to slavery, and I hate tragedy comparisons. I hate it, because, I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's all terrible. The problem I have is that they got reparations for what happened to them. Their community was given, you know, some form of payment. What we still to this day.
Also, countries swooped down to help them.
Right.
Where no one really.
But there was no help. I mean, there was no help. I mean, really, and there's still really no help. I mean, worldwide, that's the craziest thing to me is, why is it worldwide? Where does this worldwide fear come from? Because it wasn't always like that. Fear of blackness or hatred of black people. Like in Brazil, they're bleaching their skin to not be black. Like
Selfie,
it's crazy. Yeah. Like how did that happen?
I have no idea. If you are watching the news lately, there's like really, really bad things that are happening in Australia right now, and really, I'll admit it. Like, I was uneducated with like what the native Australians look like, and I'm like, whoa, this little island was colonized too.
Every island was right. It's everywhere. I mean, you know, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic.
I think it all goes back to, you know, slavery and not enough of our grandparents passing on.
Well, you know, they didn't know either. Yeah. I mean, they did. That was what was interesting about the African American Museum, is that there was. It's amazing that so many traditions and so much history did make it. Yeah. Because what resources did they have to know? Like, I mean, if you're taken from your country, you're put in an island, you have a kid, you can try to tell that kid something. By the time that kid has a kid and that kid has a kid, how are they going to know?
Because there's no way to record it.
Yeah, there's no way to record anything. They're not, you know, taught how to read or write their language. They're disconnected from their people so thoroughly that they don't even know. They've never seen their country. They don't know anything else.
When I talk about this stuff, you know, what really conflicts me. I get really conflicted because I grew up Christian, but I hate the confliction in me about how Christianity was forced upon.
Well, you are at the right interview for this, because that's exactly why I named it Voodoo Man.
Yeah, like I still am a practicing Christian, but there's always this feeling of like, is this truly the religion that was supposed to be for me? Because it was forced upon us and used as a to manipulate us,
to make us. Yeah. I mean, I always say, what better religion is there to tell you that this life's gonna suck, the next one's way better? Yeah. Hey, turn out the cheek too while we're slapping you. Like, there's no better religion for slaves. I mean, it's not a mistake that they gave Bibles. They allowed you to read the Bible.
That was it.
And that was it. That's not a mistake. Part of the essence of why I chose the name Voodoo Man. A lot of people ask me that. People hear the word voodoo and they think evil.
It has negative
connotations. They think it's bad. But it was really a West African religion that was a part of the slave trade. And in Haiti, which was, I believe it was a sugar plantation, which is one of the worst. Like, 7 years, you're dead from.
Wow.
That was it. Like they were constantly.
That was
bringing
the
in,
life expectancy.
Yeah, that was the life expectancy of a slave on a sugar plantation. But they kept practicing voodoo under the guise of Catholicism. Like it changed a little bit. Mm-hmm. So when they
and then Haiti was
they
French.
They were colonized by the French.
Mm-hmm.
But they were bringing the slaves to Haiti, like the indigenous Haitians. I mean, they were done. Mm-hmm. Like they're gone.
Yeah.
Like there's I don't even know how many of them are left. So I mean, it was colonized mostly by slaves. Like there was more slaves there than there were white people.
Yeah.
And they started practicing voodoo again. And, voodoo is more about ancestor worship. And they start, kind of believing, why would our ancestors want us to live like this? Like, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of turned the tide, when they stopped.
Well, that's not what they teach us
that's
in
not
the media.
That's not
in
what
the
they teach you.
In the media, we see people sticking people with dolls.
Right. Well, and here's where that comes from, right? So after Haiti was freed, they, I think it was American at the time. I think an American explorer went there to the Dark Country. They called it the Dark Country. Because this is the first slave revolt that was successful. Mm-hmm. And he talks about these Haitian voodoo rituals where they're doing all these things. And he wrote this book, but it was just it was from his perspective.
Oh, okay. An outsider.
Right, from an outsider's perspective who came there to basically demonize and make everyone... Because, everyone was afraid of, slave revolt anyway. Because, if you're on a plantation, you look at the numbers. It's we don't want this happening. So he goes over there and he demonizes their beliefs. Now... because the French owned Louisiana as well at the time, so they were also bringing people there, which is why that voodoo culture is still down there, and but even voodoo has changed. I thought it was the perfect representation for Black people because its roots are in West Africa. People are afraid of it. They don't really understand it. And to me, I'm not telling people you need to practice voodoo. That's not that's not the mission.
No, but everybody.
But you should know. You should know where you come from.
Educate yourself.
If you find peace and comfort from Christianity or Islam or Buddhism, whatever it is you practice, that's fine.
Yeah.
But especially being a Black person, I think you should research. Where you came from and where your people were from, and it's a self-reflective journey. If you do that and you still find that Jesus is your savior, that's great. But you need to know.
Yeah.
I think we don't do enough research on ourselves, of where we came from. We just accept things because like you said, that's when I first heard Muhammad Ali changed his name. When I as a kid and I learned that.
You were like, what is he doing?
I was like, why would you do that? Why would you? Because I was like, why would you change the name from your father? You have and that was an issue with him and his family.
Oh, it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they beefed over that for a while, but he was like, that's not even your name. You just don't know your name,
We're really
and that's it's true.
Yeah.
It's true to an extent. Because you don't.
But I think that's changing. Mm-hmm. I think that's why we're having all this conflict now, because more and more Black people are less willing to just accept what's being told to them and what's being fed to them.
That's information.
Yeah.
That's to me that's part of what the internet can do. That's one of the powerful things of the internet. You can find out more things more easily.
Yeah.
And even that, they slowed down the speed of the internet in the hood. What the heck, dog? What? Come on.
You got to be really, really careful. That's a slippery slope. Next thing you know, it could be like Korea over here.
Yeah. It's why it's important to find out as much as you can and learn as much as you can and pass on as much information as you can.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know yourself and you don't have, it's funny. When I was a kid, I used to think that culture was, I didn't get it. I've always been really independent. I'm like, why do I care about what everyone else is doing? Why do I got to do this?
Yeah.
But it's really powerful for uniting people, and without any kind of unity, you don't really.
That's a problem too, because, oh Lord, I don't really want to talk ill of the millennials, but it's really self-involved, really self-involved. It's hard for them to see outside of themselves. Many of them do, but it's hard. It's hard, and I think it's because their parents are younger and my age. A lot of parents are, they had to get out, they had to work, so they leave the kid oftentimes alone with the TV, with these computers that came up, so they are in their own little bubbles.
Right.
It takes a lot for them to look up and see what's going on.
Right, it's true. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, you got screen addiction. That's a real thing. Like social media addiction. Like, people just scroll all day, and like that's something that we still haven't figured out, this whole social media thing, like the effects of it.
Yeah,
like, this is the first generation.
It's going to take years before we know that.
Right, before we know like how it's really affecting our brains and how it's affecting our interactions, our social interactions.
We already see how it's affecting.
I mean, it is, but think about the long-term effects. Like, we don't know what that's going to be.
Social skills.
Right, social skills and all that. So, I mean, that plays a part in it.
These kids don't know how to talk to each other
kids
at all.
will be texting in the same room. That's crazy. Like, you should open your mouth, dog.
They don't know how to talk to adults. They don't know how to talk to each other.
Right. It's interesting. That's an interesting thing. But I'm not worried about them being united on issues. I think because they're on their phones so much, there's so much awareness. It's just about
what's going on, like in the news.
Well, whether it's the news or it's just right now. I mean, it depends on how old they are. I mean, as their interests will evolve, like that. Yeah. But as they get if you
that's another thing too. They could be all concerned 1 second, but the attention span is
the attention span is real quick. But I think that's just evolution. To be honest, I do think that they will be able to be unified where it's necessary. Because I don't know. I just look at it.
If a good example of what you are talking about is the status of like the gun crisis. You see a lot of the young people.
Yeah, like those kids in high school.
Are like high school kids are banning. That is actually something great to see.
Right.
Because it's something that is uniting everybody from every background.
Yeah, I do think that there's some power in how they move. It's just different than we're used to. Like, we haven't seen it before because we didn't grow up on social media. They grew, like, that's all they know. They've never seen a world without it. So, I mean, the way they use it's a little bit different. That's how they communicate. But I'm not concerned about them being Well, again, it depends on where they stand. I mean, to me, unity comes from information. And right now,
there's so much of it.
There's so much information and so much controversy about what's real. Like, I've never seen it. Like, I mean, a fact is a fact, but people are arguing that, like the whole idea of fake news and alternative facts, like it's a real thing, like, and that to me is more disruptive.
Well, we have someone in the highest office telling you that there's fake news and there's alternative facts and all this stuff, so it's confusing. I
mean, I get that, but I think specifically for people that are minorities, like if you're already, we got to figure it out. Like, we got to become unified and know what our facts are and present those, and we don't have time to be arguing about silly stuff. Like, we do too much of that of not, because to me, one of the big things I always talk about is supporting black businesses, having the black dollar circulate longer in our communities. Because I think that's the true path to freedom. I can't remember what I was watching.
We lost a lot of that in the I think in the 80s too. I think in the 80s we lost a lot of black ownership and supporting your own, because drugs, crack came, the homes were separated, that the government had a big hand in.
Right.
Only giving help to women if the father was not in the household. Right. So who's opening up shops?
Right.
You know what I mean? Everybody's scrapping, everybody's saving.
Before that was, and it's a weird thing, it's integration. Integration it allowed the mobility of
independence. It took our independence away.
Well, what happened was, right, like if you're a successful person and you have to live with black people, you live in a black community. Now your funds are being spent in the black community, and it allows the less successful people to have more opportunities, and they get to see you, they get inspired. Like, kid will be like, oh, that's a doctor, he's black. Oh, this is a lawyer, he's black. Like, they get when those people had the opportunity to leave, they left. So now that devalues the entire neighborhood, because, like, the properties, they don't have enough money for upkeep, or they don't own their properties because they're not making that much money. The inspiration's gone. So that was the first step. Like, when they started leaving, it's like, like that was the first. Then with the 80s, that was just a straight up break the black family down.
That was a calculated plan. What I do hope is that they're going back. There's a lot of movement. I'm gonna call it movement, not real answers, but there's movement with talks of how we're gonna fix it.
Right. Yes. All right. So I think there's a lot of different ideas on what the first steps need to be for success to happen, or for movement to be happening, or for progression to be, whatever the word you want to choose is. I think the first thing needs to do is we need to stop asking other people for stuff. Like we have to be more self-sustained. Because like, a lot of people say that, it doesn't matter if you vote. That's not true. It doesn't matter if you vote. But you have to have some incentive for them to listen to you.
Yeah. Like,
what incentive is there for people to listen to black people? Like, if we want prison reform, right? If that's a major thing we want, why would they do it? What's going to change in the country if they don't do it? Nothing. Because we keep spending our money the same way. Now, if we said, look.
I actually think that right now is just a great time to be alive. Because we are really, really about to see how much power the black people have and how much power our dollar has. It's happening. I know you had to notice it. It's almost like everywhere you turn, everything is being revamped to be more culturally inclusive. Everything is being like rebooted to be more culturally inclusive. And it's not like everyone's just throwing white people out.
Right.
It's just making everything we put our eyes on represent how America is truly looks. Yeah. Because we were fed a lie, all these years, is that, only the best of the best look a certain way.
Right.
And I just think, I lost my train of thought.
But I agree.
But I
said this a few times. This is the first time that black people in America have actually had the access to make these strides. Like, this is the first time.
But what's even more exciting is that all these changes are happening, and for a lot of networks besides ABC, because the head of ABC is a black woman,
right?
These are white people making these decisions. So that has to say something.
Well, the demographics of the country is also shifting. That's one. And also, we've always been, the difference is the ownership. We've always been cool.
Yeah.
Nat King Cole had a show. Sammy Davis Jr., he was cool. James Brown was like, there's always been a sense of cool. They've always loved our art. But now we're starting to, own it.
Get that pat.
Yeah, we're starting to get the bread from it. We have our own entertainment lawyers. Like, LeBron has his whole team. They're all black, everything, and they're going to networks with whole ideas and packages. Nas is, doing startup companies with all different types of. So now we're in different spaces than we've ever been.
You even have to shout out like the Jay-Z and Beyonce who put out their cool stuff, representing black culture,
right?
And it's like water, giving it to everybody,
right?
But then also very quietly standing up for the things that they really believe in. They stand
up for.
They don't make a big deal of it. Right. They just very quietly donating money here.
And I think, a lot of people say that people should do more, but I think you need everybody doing what they do. Like, do what
they can do.
Yeah, what they can do. Who am I to say that you should give this amount of money? I just think that you should be. I have a problem when people act like they're not aware of stuff. Like, that's my biggest thing. Someone asks you a question, like, about Black Lives Matter, or someone asks you a question.
I have a big.
I have a problem with that. Like, don't
rich.
Yeah, don't act like that. Don't say that, because that hurts everybody.
And going back to like Lil Wayne thing, obviously we can talk about what happened with Kanye West recently, which I liked what happened. Like, nobody wants to be like that sacrificial lamb,
right? But
he was. He said what was on his mind,
right,
off the fly, out of his mouth, with no thought to anyone's feelings, right, or to how it would even affect or hurt our culture or set us back. But then you had obviously a lot of people on those phone lines and in his ear using it as a teaching moment.
Right.
And then the other day he was crying and actually gave a full-on apology for the things he said. And it's so weird because just not that long ago, over a decade ago, he was the one in the forefront standing up for black people.
Yeah.
You just can't lose how impactful your voice is, you know, depending on what you're going through on that day. But it had to be done. But it looks like he learned. Right?
I think he learned. Although, I have to say, I do think that I don't like how he said it. But
said his apology?
No. I don't like how he said, you know, slavery was a choice. I don't like that.
No. Well,
because it's clearly not a choice.
Yeah.
But what I thought he was trying to say was, how did they stay in that system without more revolts? I mean, obviously, if you look at the history of it, there was revolts constantly because no one would stay in that system. So, I mean, that's just like but I think he was saying mentally, like, why do people accept?
I know, and I think people were kind of closed off to hear that we did have a choice. It was either you be a slave or you kill yourself.
Or you die, yeah.
Exactly. So it's like, Kanye, what are you
right.
saying?
I mean, that was essentially the choice that you were given, and it's not really much of a choice. And but I think what I think is he said 400 years. So when he said that, I was thinking maybe he's talking about
he's saying more revolts, more people.
Like how did people accept that? And like,
well, we're accepting things now.
Now, and I think that's what he was saying. I think that's what the way I took it was. That's what he meant. It's like, why do we accept these things now? Like, why are we accepting the ridiculous police brutality rates, the not being able to move into certain neighborhoods because they redlined it? Why do we accept, you know, the ridiculous jobs
we
or the lack of businesses?
They redlined, but you were able to get pretty close.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know what I mean?
So like close, like and like if someone's close to be like, well, I'm here, so you know I'm better than y'all. Like that's not good enough. And I think we're finding what I think is changing is that concept that you know it's not just about one person making it. It's about everybody.
Absolutely.
The betterment of all your people coming.
Absolutely.
Like the concept of team. Before we get done, I wanted to talk to you specifically about on Jay-Z's 444. He had an interesting little documentary, and he was talking about how he didn't know how to love, and I really like that. But one of the issues I thought was like he was talking to a whole bunch of guys, and it is true that black men need to discuss how to be better in relationships. We don't have, a lot of people don't have that many role models. You don't see it that frequently.
Or they don't talk to each other.
And we don't talk to each other,
do.
Right? Yeah. The same way. But we also don't talk to women frequently, and that's something that I wanted to address. Is because I think we're traumatized. I mean, there's so much trauma in our culture. There is so much trauma, and big ups to him for recognizing, oh, this went wrong in my marriage because I did not know how to love. But from if you want to speak about like a woman's standpoint too, women accept a lot of things they shouldn't. They go along with, relationships they shouldn't be in, or they do a lot maybe because they don't or never had that relationship example. Again, we're talking about, the 80s, there was a lot of broken homes. So, just speaking, even if you want to speak on myself, my mother was a single mother. So, and she never was in a long relationship. So I never had, this is how a man and woman behave in a home, like in a relationship, in a marriage. So we are sent out into the world to figure this shit out on our own. Right.
And you're going to have failed relationships, bumps, bruises on the way. But that's hard. Women end up in abusive relationships because they don't, this must be what love looks like because they never seen it.
Right.
So it's not all on the men; it's the women too.
Right.
Women,
it's both of us. It's both parties.
Yeah.
But I think that conversation has to start more publicly because I see it sometimes on Facebook. I see a lot of like a girl will post a status, and guys will just like. I feel like we try to dismiss a lot of stuff. Like we just try to dismiss what women have to say about stuff. Like, I feel like we're dismissive. Like, a lot of times I look at the comments, I'm like, why would you say that? Like, she's clearly feeling something. Like, listen, at least read it, and take it seriously. Like,
yeah, well, that's just, I don't think that's, a cultural thing. That might be just, a men thing.
I think it's a men thing, yeah.
It's a men
more
thing.
Than just a culture. I think it's, I think guys just...
Yeah, there has to be more communication. Black people express themselves in such creative ways, through art, through music, singing, dancing, you name it. But not really good at one-on-one with words with each other, which is insane.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. Yeah. I mean, a lot of that. I think that's changing because like black dudes don't even they don't say they love each other. Like not in a. Not
Did you see the whole thing on social media with black fathers kissing their sons?
Mm-hmm.
That it was like, let's make this like a new norm. Like, why do you need to make your son grow up so hard? Right. The men who are snatching.
But I think, and this is what I'm saying, is trauma. I think it's from a place of a lot of stuff. Like, I think comes from the trauma of the world. Like, you feel like, they used to, them. Yeah, they used to, black people were so hard on their kids because if they don't beat their kids get out of line and a cop sees them, now they could be dead. So you want to make sure, like, are you going to be in line or you might not come home. So I think it comes from there. Like, black guys will feel like, the world is hard. I got to make sure my son is ready. Like some kind of practice. And not be in a safe place.
Especially now, you do have to ready your sons. Mm-hmm. You do have to ready your boys. You do have to ready your sons, and you do have to make them tough and ready to face the world. But what the dads forgot to say was, you don't carry this exterior into your relationship, into your marriage, into your love life. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of problems that men have. They're like, what's wrong? I'm a great man. I do this, I do that. But you done failed at being a boyfriend. Right. You done failed at being a husband because you done took that hard exterior into your home. Mm-hmm. That's what fathers forget to say. Right. Yeah, be hard. Go out in this world and don't. Well, also
that's probably how their dad was. Like, they probably never saw their dad.
I know. It's just because their dad had to be hard. Right. If they're growing up in the 60s, 70s, like, that was going to save them. Right. So we're passing on stuff that we don't need anymore. Mm-hmm. We're literally passing on to our kids things that we don't even
and I think that's anymore. Where the conversation has to come in.
But it's coming back, though.
It's starting to come back.
It's starting to come back, but at the same time, things like police brutality is making us have these same old conversations again.
I feel differently than a lot of people on police brutality in that conversation. Because I've been in situations where the cop was acted, they're being an a-hole. They was trying to give me I refuse to I'm not going to ever be disrespectful. I'm not a disrespectful person. I treat everybody with respect, but you're going to also treat me with respect. I'm not going to be in there, not standing up for myself as a man. Like, you're going to talk to me like a man. And I actually think that's better to tell young men. Like, treat them with respect. I respect you as your officer. You're doing your job. Yeah. But I'm not going to just be in there, just listening to every command. I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to tell you who I am. I'm going to tell you, whatever you want to know. But I'm not just going to be scared, shaking in my boots. Yeah. Like, I think we got to erase that fear. I think we got to stop dealing with those situations. Because me personally, I'm not going to say this to anybody else, but me personally, if you're going to shoot me, I'd rather go out being myself than, like.
No, I don't want my son to be scared. Right. Lord help me, he just got his driver's permit. So I don't want him to be scared, but at the same time, I have to say certain things to him that I might not have to say to my daughter.
Mm-hmm. No, it's very true.
It is true.
Because you have to be aware.
Went crazy when did my nephew give me a ride? My nephew was leaving my house and he told me he got pulled over by a cop and the cop pulled a gun on him, and I was like, why? He was like, because I reached for my registration. I was like, where was it? It was in the seat under.
Oh yeah, don't do that.
I said, what?
Yeah, he was wild.
You cannot keep your stuff there.
Right.
You cannot reach like that. That's why. So it's just giving them all those lessons, but there needs to be. I don't know. How did you learn about the birds and the bees? Like, it needs to be more than, this is how it happens. There you go. And you send these people out into the world. Yeah. Like, no, you have to tell them how, men and women, how to interact with each other.
You have to tell everybody how to interact. I think they got to see it, too. I mean, not the birds and the bees part. That's too much. But, I mean, they have to see the love. They have to see love. I think there's not enough.
They do.
There's not enough examples of love out there, and I think that's important. I think it's also important that we listen to each other. There has to be that they have to see that conversation. Like that conversation has to be had. Like, I mean, you know, so you have a son. So like, what do you tell him? Like, does he talk to you about his relationships? Does he have relationships? Yeah, I mean, he's starting to drive. I'm just.
He's gonna be so embarrassed. I'm not gonna say his name, but well, yeah. And I talk to him. You know, he's 17, so going over the days of talking to him like he's a baby. Right. So yeah, I talk to him. Oh, do you have anything you want to talk about, or you know, you want to talk to me about this girl? You know, just get your mouth moving. Like, you know what I mean? A lot of times that is just the first step, and you know, making sure that he has good examples of what love is. Right. No matter if it's coming from me, you know, an uncle, a friend.
Well, I think it's a good outlet. I don't know how many people do that. I think, you know, like talking to your kids about their friendships, their relationships in general, like that's because like, I mean, how do you recognize when something's toxic if that's all you've experienced? Like somebody has to tell you like, yo, that's not right. Like, you know, if a kid came over and he won't let your son play on his own Xbox, you gotta be like, yo, what's up with this guy? Like,
yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I'm saying? Like,
and not to rag on men so much. Women that were raised in single women households, they've only seen single women survive one way, by doing everything themselves. Right. You know what I mean? By depending on themselves and handling this. So a lot of times when women get married or they have this other partner, they don't know how to share the load, right. Or maybe they will share the load, but then they get let down and they're like, oh, and they go right into what they know. Got to handle everything on my own. Right. So yeah, it's basically just recognizing your own trauma.
It's crazy because, I mean, love is complicated anyway. Like, just relationships are complicated anyway. But then you add on top, like, all the added pressure, all the added traumas of, you know, being a minority and being just, you know, basically traumatized.
Yeah, and no one's working through it because Black people don't go to therapy.
And we don't go to therapy. We don't talk about it. Like, we just kind of keep pushing on. I think that's one of the things I wanted to change with this. I wanted to start these conversations. I want to start people thinking about, you know, what they could do to better themselves. Or, you know, like, you know, I think it's very important that we start talking about how we could love each other better and like in every aspect. Like, I mean, you know, they talk about how young boys don't give dap like that. Like, I mean, when if I see a Black dude, I don't know him, but we make eye contact, it's like, we gonna say what's up. Like, what's up, guy? Like,
well, they even say that that's like a northern thing down south. Everybody say hi. If you know someone or not. Everyone says hi. North, no one talks to you unless they like kind of want something from you. Right. So we do have to change that.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta be, to me, it's gotta be a little bit more unity. I want you to, you know, tell everybody where they can find you and let them know what you got coming up or what you're working on. Or
Sure. Well, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram as The Media Bee. I'm on Twitter as The Real Media Bee. You could check me out on Saturdays from 6 to 10 on evolveradio247.com. And yeah, stay close to my social media, my YouTube channels, because I do upload a lot of exclusive interviews there, especially musical artists and people just in the community, you know, doing what they do.
Yep. Lit.